Hello and welcome to another Whiskey Review with me, the Whiskey Novice. Thank you for joining me for what is review number 115, a part 2 of a little series in which I'm looking at some Scotch 10-year-old single malts. And this is one that every now and again I look in the cabinet and come across a bottle and think to myself, why haven't I reviewed that yet? And it's for no other reason than I've simply forgotten, or I've just bypassed it, or there's no underlying reason as to why I haven't reviewed it. And this is a prime example of that. Laphroaig 10-year-old. I mean, is it quintessentially Islay whiskey? Well, no. I mean, it's peated whiskey. Islay's known for the peated whiskey. It certainly wouldn't be the quintessential peated whiskey for me from Islay, but at the same time, it is certainly a peated whiskey from Islay. I never reviewed it. I did review the 10-year-old cask strength a while back. And in that review, I said that to me, the standard bottling paled in comparison to the cask strength. I'll get back to that later. For now, let's just look at this as a bottle in its own right. Yes, I said it's from Islay, owned by Beam Suntory there. And this one fully matured in ex-bourbon casks. As a standalone, on its own, what do we think? Well, it's bottled at 40%. There's colour added. It's chill filtered. So, yeah, we'll get to that as we go along. Let's just get in and see what we'll think of it now, shall we? Burnt out, damp foliage. So an old bonfire or an old damp wood being burnt. Yeah, there's smokiness for sure. And there's no denying, there's no hiding the medicinal notes. I'm not a huge fan of using those medicinal notes, in that for me those medicinal notes are actually the smell of good peat smoke, of a good peat fire. But there's no denying that notes, tasting notes, are a personal thing. And at the end of the day, they are what they remind you of. This reminds you of. So I can certainly understand, because all that TCP, iodine, band-aids, sticking plasters, whichever you choose to call them. I mean, I can see how this does remind people of that sort of thing, but for me, it's closer to a good peat smoke from a good peat fire. But to me, none of that is off-putting. Even if you did put it down to medicinal notes, I still don't find it off-putting. I just find it interesting. I just find it different. I actually find hints of walnut in this. There's a slight tinge of a bitterness, like a walnut, and citrus, quite citrusy. That'll be lemon and lime. There's also sharp, tart apples, some wet grass, and along with that citrus, there's even a tropical fruit, kiwi. It's a sharp kiwi. And I mean, to be expected along with that sort of thing, there's the brininess, rock pools, that sort of thing. And even a note which it didn't necessarily tie down earlier, but bacon, cooking, streaky bacon. Yeah, that's there as well. So let's get into the palate. Bittersweet arrival, little thin, but then it's 40%. Sharp, smoky, it's tangy. It says tangy, those citrusy notes are right at the back of the palate, but all the smoke's right at the back of the palate as well. There are whiffs of barbecue sauce running through it, but I thin barbecue sauce, like a glaze or something, it's not something sticky. It's smoky, but not earthy. It's full of flavour, it is, but it just is gently delivered. Yeah, the flavour's definitely there, but it just comes as a gentle delivery. And the finish then, finishing this one is a little confusing because it's sort of medium to long, but you walk away from this and there's a slight bitterness hangs around for a while, and then if you just did a sip of this and walked away, I could nearly guarantee you 2 or 3 minutes later you'll still taste smoke. So it does hang around. I know that would nearly then suggest that it's a very long finish, but it's more the fact that it sort of goes away, and then you get reminded that there's something there. Yeah, I would actually consider it a good peat finish. It's just a little thin, all of it. I'm not going to add water to this. I did during my tasting notes as usual. When it thinned a little in the nose, it sort of brought an orange to the nose. It did change the nose, but it didn't change it for good. It became a little rubbery. There was a whiff of melting, burning plastic, so it wasn't terribly pleasant, and that actually carried through into the palate as well. So I won't add water. It's 40%. You're really just watering it down. All in all, if you wished to go down an incredibly peaty path, Laphroaig 10 wouldn't be a bad place to start. It's different. It plays different to the Ardbegs, to the Lagavulins, to the Kalilas, in my opinion. You know, it stands out on its own, in that there's a brighter, sharper, more citrusy thing to it than those that I just mentioned. And to me, all that medicinal thing, if you wish to go that way with it and call it medicinal, is more noticeable in a Laphroaig than it is just to me personally, than the likes of the Ardbegs and Lagavulins, etc. So look, it's a different beast. If you're starting a journey, if you're getting into peat, if you've got to the point where you like peated whiskey and you haven't tried Laphroaig 10, then yeah, I would recommend it. I know bar staff who won't open a bottle of this. They'll ask somebody else to do it because they just cannot stand the smell of it. I find it different. I do. I find it an interesting whiskey. It is smoky. I'm still getting that smoke in the back of my palate now. Just different. Yeah, I would recommend it in that if you're going down that peated path and you're starting somewhere and you've got far enough that you like peated whiskey but you haven't had Laphroaig 10, yes, definitely. 30 to 40 pounds it tends to come in at. Reminding yourself that it's a 10-year-old single malt Scotch, 30 to 40 pounds isn't bad, but then whenever you remind yourself that it's 40%, it's chill filtered and there's colour added, then that 30 to 40 pounds could easily be spent elsewhere and you would still get a good peated whiskey. So, you know, I'm sort of on the fence about Laphroaig 10. I do like it, but once again, I've sort of gone past that point. So let's just leave it there, shall we? Yes, if you like this, and I'm not cheating. I don't think personally. I don't think I'm here's what I'm going to do. Here's what I'm going to suggest to you. If you like Laphroaig 10-year-old and you don't know where to proceed with it, well, the first thing I'm going to suggest to you is buy this, because this was the one. And this was, whenever I reviewed, this is the cask strength, batch 12. And when I reviewed this cask strength, batch 12, I did say that the standard 10-year-old pales in comparison, and it does. All day long, it pales in comparison to the cask strength. So, if you've had the 10 and you enjoyed it, the first thing I'm going to recommend is you buy the cask strength, and you'll probably never look back. But you should. You should. And I'm going to steal a leaf out of Ralphie's book here and say, get yourself a Laphroaig 10 cask strength and a teaspoon. And every time you visit this, you will make this last an awful lot longer if you have a bottle of this and a teaspoon. I mean, pour yourself even a healthy dram of the standard 10-year-old and just put a teaspoon of the cask strength in and watch this turn into a bit of a monster for you. You know, it's only a bit of a monster. This cask strength is a monster. But at least let this grow a bit. You'll turn this into something good. It's already something good. It just needs brought up a little with a higher ABV, and a teaspoonful of the cask strength at 60.1% will soon do that. I don't actually happen to have a teaspoon handy, so instead I will just let's see. For that was a healthy teaspoon, shall we say? And we'll put this away for now. But you will create a better whiskey by adding. Yeah, the volume just jumps out of the bottle, out of the glass. It brings depth, it brings breadth. It brings flavour, unctuousness, coating. So yeah. If you have a bottle of this languishing in your cupboard and you're starting to feel it a little boring, perhaps we'll say, although I would never accuse Laphroaig 10-year-old of being boring, buy yourself a bottle of the cask strength and put some of that in there. See how it changes. There you go. That's what I have to say about Laphroaig. Glad I've actually got round to reviewing it finally. It's not a bad whiskey. It was one of the early ones. I've said before that I feel almost blessed that I can enjoy peated whiskey. I did say that I know people who won't even open a bottle of it. So that's how it, peated whiskey can really, really swing opinions. Yeah. All day. I'll leave it there. I'd say thank you very much for joining me once again. Thank you very, very much to my patrons. If you wish to join that group, the details are below. Till the next time, my friends, here's your good health. Cheers. Hey, thanks for watching my video. Please click and subscribe to be notified of further content.